So
Yes.
let's get into it real quick here. Bellator 294, Liz Carmouche versus Bennett 2. Do you, Mark, want to highlight any of the other fights that are going down this weekend on that card?
Let's not. Let's keep this thing moving. Let's get right into the main
All
card.
right. The hell with the rest of the card. Let's start out here with Danny Sabatello versus Marcos Breno. Mark, why don't you go first and give us the rundown here of these guys?
Okay, I just realized I forgot to input the odds, so I'm just checking. Okay, the favorite is Danny Sabatello. He is minus 500. Marcos Breno is the underdog at plus 375. Marcos Breno is a very good fighter. His only loss in any recent years is to Taylor Lapilus, who's like arguably the best bantamweight that's not in a major organization. Um, he just beat Josh Hill in his Bellator debut, who's a pretty established dude. But all that being said, I think he's kind of being fed to Sabatello in a way here. Sabatello is the much bigger man. He's 5 inches taller than Breno. And I think that style for style, Sabatello has a game that can stop Breno's game because Breno's dangerous on the feet, but I don't think he's going to get to spend a ton of time there because Sabatello is just such a good wrestler. And while Breno has some game off his back, I think Sabatello is just so comfortable there as well. So I don't know that Sabatello is going to be able to be deterred here. So I kind of think he is just going to cruise to a UD in typical Danny Sabatello fashion.
Very nice. Very nice. I've never heard of this Marcos Breno chap here. I've not watched him.
Could
All
be a
right.
little difficult for you to make a pick.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I'm gonna go with Danny Sabatello just because I know his whether you love it or you hate it, it's effective in his ground game and his control. I don't know much about Marcos Breno, but I don't think he's going to be the type to be able to keep Danny Sabatello off him for 3 rounds. So I'll go with Danny Sabatello by unanimous decision. All right. Next on the list here, Sara McMann versus Arlene Blencowe. Sara McMann here with 13 wins, 6 losses, 1 by KO, 5 by submission, and 7 by decision. Her most recent fight, a win over Carol Rosa, and just before that, Juliana Pena, both in the UFC. So Sara McMann making her Bellator debut here, totally unbeknownst to me. And Arlene Blencowe not making her Bellator debut for sure. Much seasoned here in this area, having recently just fought Cyborg just like a year ago. So Arlene Blencowe's got 15 wins and 9 losses, 8 by KO, 1 by submission, and 6 decisions. I feel like this is a really interesting fight, man, because Sara McMann has been inconsistent, but she's got skill, man. She's got technique. Reality is I don't think she likes getting hit. And whenever she gets hit really well, I think she just folds and she crumbles. Arlene Blencowe is one of those girls that will hit very hard. If she gets the ability to, she will land a shot on you. And I don't know if Sara McMann is going to want to take shots from Blencowe. I do believe Sara McMann is going to have the wrestling advantage in general over Arlene Blencowe and could definitely ride out 3 rounds on top of Blencowe for sure. And I'm going to go with that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Arlene is able to put hands on her at some point. So I will go with Sara McMann by unanimous decision.
I think that's an accurate take. I'm in pretty much the same boat. Seems like the lines are as well. McMahon is minus 200. Blencowe is plus 160, so not terribly wide, but McMahon a clear favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think Sara McMahon is better. Blencowe has been solid in Bellator. Her only recent losses are to like Cyborg a couple times, Julia Budd a couple times, and that's about it. But I just think the depth in Bellator is severely lacking compared to what Sara McMahon has been fighting in the UFC. I know this is obviously up a weight class from where we're used to seeing Sara McMahon, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue for her. She's plenty strong enough. And the style matchup helps because Blencowe is very much a striker and not hugely well rounded. And McMahon obviously is going to look to lean on the wrestling, and I don't think should see a lot of resistance in that department as long as she can close that distance and get her hands on Blencowe. So as you said, she's got to be careful to not get clipped because Blencowe definitely carries power and can absolutely clip Sara McMann. But I will place my chips on the side of a wrestling-based UD for Sara McMann.
All right. Trucking right along here. Tim Johnson versus Sowma. Next on the list here, Tim Johnson with 15 wins and 9 losses, 8 wins by KO, 3 by submission, and 4 by decision. Tim Johnson, also the older gentleman at 38 years old, as Mike would like to remind you, probably not going to do very well as a result. Is coming off of 3 losses to Valentin Moldavsky, Fedor Emelianenko, and Linton Vassell. All very, very good fighters, but 3 losses in a row nonetheless. Sowma knows a little bit about that with 2 in a row off of Gokhan Sarakam and Davion Franklin. Sowma has 8 wins and 4 losses, 5 by KO, 1 by submission, and 2 by decision. The younger gentleman by 8 years at 30 years old. Mark, why don't you take this one first and tell us where you think this fight is headed?
All right, I'm just checking one thing because I wrote down that Tim Johnson has a 3-inch height advantage, but that doesn't feel right.
It looks like, according to Sherdog, yes, 2. It says 6'3"
okay.
here and 6'1" for Sowma.
Close enough. I guess maybe I looked elsewhere, but yeah, okay. So anyway, the favorite here is Sowma. He's minus 200. Tim Johnson is plus 160. Funny, same exact odds as last fight. Okay. Johnson is bigger. He's got a 2-inch height and 2-inch reach advantage. I always struggle to evaluate Sowma. He surprises me kind of often, like especially when he beat Vitaly Minakov. I did not see that coming. Tim Johnson on the other side is getting older. You wonder if maybe he's starting to kind of fall off a bit here. Granted, as you said, it's been pretty top flight competition that he's losing to. So just because for whatever reason, I never end up being sold on the game of Sowma, I'm going to roll with the underdog here, kind of to take one underdog on this card as well. I will say Tim Johnson wins it just by virtue of being more well-rounded, a little grittier. I think he can make it ugly and eke out a decision, but this could go the other way too, where Sowma kind of keeps it cleaner and it goes his way. I think it hinges on that, what kind of fight we see here. But I'll say Tim Johnson, and I'll say split decision.
Do you remember that's the Sowma Minakov fight? Because I feel like I remember that ending pretty dumb.
It ended dumb in that Minakov hurt his finger and they called it, but Minakov was already losing and was
losing,
kind of needing like a big finish, and then it just ended anyway. But Sowma was beating him.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tim Johnson though. I'm not a huge fan of either guy, if we're being completely honest. I just think Tim Johnson has fought tougher guys. I think he's seen a lot more looks in general, and so I would just assume that at this weight class, especially with the experience, Tim Johnson would be able to get this one done. So I'm going to go with Tim Johnson here, and I think he probably finds a chin here, and I would go round 1 KO.
Oh, baby.
All right. Next on the list, our main event of this evening, Bellator 294, Liz Carmouche, the girl Rilla, fighting DeAnna Vitamin D Bennett. Bennett. Liz Carmouche with 18 wins and 7 losses, 8 wins by KO, 4 by submission, and 6 by decision. Standing at 39 years old with a lot of wins back to back as of 2020. With a win, an introductory win into Bellator against DeAnna Bennett.
The struggle is real.
I know, dude. And 2 recent wins off of championship fights off of Juliana Velasquez, both done very, very beautifully. DeAnna Bennett coming off of 3 wins in a row, 2 to Justine Quiche. All decision wins as opposed to Carmouche's stoppages. Especially, she's got 4 stoppages in her 5 Bellator fights. Liz Carmouche is on some other shit right now. I guess I'll go first here. I don't know what it is that Liz Carmouche has found, what sauce she is rolling with here, man. But Liz Carmouche has found her groove. I think she's found her comfort level in this division, in this organization. I think she definitely gets treated like the champ here. She gets recognized as the champ here from a respect standpoint, not just obviously visibly and by the organization, but I think from the MMA community as well. And her stoppages, man, have been nothing short of amazing. You know, we can argue that Juliana Velasquez won the first one all you want. You can't say dick about the second one at all. And DeAnna Bennett has an opportunity here to run back a fight that she lost years ago now at this point, 3 years to be exact. I guess 2.5 really. But I honestly think it's probably going to be worse than the first time. She lost via submission, rear naked choke in round 3. And honestly, man, I think it's going to happen even sooner than that. I think Liz Carmouche has already fought her, already felt it, and probably is comfortable going into that fire again and finding an even better way to beat her this time around. So I'm going to go with Liz Carmouche, second round, ground and pound, TKO.
So Carmouche is a big favorite. She is minus 500 to defend her belt. DeAnna Bennett is plus 350. This is one where I think there's simply levels, and I don't think DeAnna Bennett is on a level with Liz Carmouche. As you said, they fought back in 2020. Liz beat her then. I understand Bennett is on a nice little run, but it's really only over 2 fighters since 2 of these in here were Justine Kish. And Liz, despite being 39 years old, is, as you said, looking friggin' fantastic. And she's really never stopped looking fantastic. Like, some of these fighters who end up in Bellator, they had a slide first. Like, there really wasn't a slide for Liz. She kind of just left the UFC when she was still whatever she was, top 5-ish. Yeah. And she's picked up in Bellator. I think it's just that people maybe thought she was due to fall off because of the age, and it just hasn't happened. But we haven't seen anyone who can hang with her yet in Bellator, and I don't think Bennett is that woman. You know, she's older, too. She's 38 as well. UFC fans may remember her from the Nico Montano season of Tough. She was kind of the quirky character on that season, a little bit of lesbianist things happening. I think that Carmouche is just significantly better than her. I think she is in better physical shape, better cardio shape, and I don't really see an avenue to victory for DeAnna Bennett. Striking, I think she's outmatched. Wrestling, I think she's outmatched. I'm going to go with Liz. I could see it being ground and pound. I could see it being a sub. I agree with you. I like round 2. I don't know which route I want to go. I'll say it's another sub, round 2.
Yeah, I think the real crazy thing about the career of Liz Carmouche is that if you watch her career in UFC, she's fought a lot of the best girls, a lot of the top of the division and of women's MMA, really, especially when it comes to 135. But all of her wins, for the most part, are by decision. And she's always had these grueling, long fights with a lot of these women, win or loss. And she gets to Bellator, and she's fucking wrecking these women. Absolutely wrecking them.
That's a great point.
And it's just a different vibe from Liz Carmouche, man. It's a fun time, man. I've really enjoyed watching her, I think, more now in Bellator than I did in the UFC. Some of it might have to do with motivation. Seems like Bellator was one of those places that really wanted to pay for Liz Carmouche when that time came and her contract was up. And it seems like that might have motivated her a little bit more because she came right in, choked out Bennett, Jesus Christ. Choked out Bennett in her debut fight and went on from there to finish 4 more people. I think it's been a great move for her, man, and I think a beautiful second half of her career for sure.